Yeah, we were talking about GM, guys. Now GM actually.
GM indeed.
GM.
Hi guys.
And, thanks that you guys are joining from all over the world, different time zones. Jordan is waking up while I'm almost about to go to sleep. But that is beauty of crypto. That is beauty of DePIN. Today we have very interesting topic. It's been actually in our mind. Like last year, we have seen the rise of DePIN. It went crazy. Rise of AI, and I wouldn't really go on and on about the whole AI explosion. But while crypto was really trying to find what are the use cases, let me get Al as well into it. GM,
GM.
good to have you.
Indeed. Thanks for the link.
And so, yeah, so we were talking about how the AI explosion has been. But the other side of the story is that the whole democratization of AI as well is going to be a center point of our discussion in these days, especially when there are a lot of questions on privacy or whether we have enough stakeholders in play or not. So all those kind of things we'll discuss. But before we move forward, let's first have a round of introduction. I know a few of you already, but then let the audience know about you, and we will keep it free flowing and have a lot of questions. We keep bothering Earl for in our previous spaces, but now on broadcast we'll also make a little bit more. Who goes first?
Why don't I go first? So, my name is Alexander. I'm the CEO of Ado, and we at Ado help users connect third-party IoT sensors, third-party devices that can collect data, and we match them with data buyers. In addition, we also onboard different DePIN projects, so in a way acting as aggregator. And among the recent cool news, we are finishing integration of Mysterium VPN. So that's one of the services you can already use through our app to earn tokens for being a VPN node. So basically, it's just one app for connectivity, one app for DePIN participation, kind of making it easier for the users to find projects and compare apples to apples.
Beautiful. Who goes next?
You can hop on. I'm unmuted here. So, hey, Jordan checking in from Public AI, co-founder and chief marketing officer over here. And what we're up to is powering exceptional AI by making it equitable for folks to come and share their experience and expertise. So we've got a demand-driven model where our clients come to us seeking some kind of niche on-demand data, and then we put out tasks to our community to go and collect that data. Um, Rewards come from both uploading and voting on the data so that quality comes out the other side of the process. And we've got a community of close to 1 million data builders who are all contributing there. Um, on the DePIN front, one of the clients we're working with right now, they have real-time translation devices. So this is real hardware that's in people's hands, and we're doing audio recording around languages. So people upload their native dialect. We're digging into deep niches. Literally every continent and country is able to participate. And then that's used for fine-tuning models around language translation. We're also really excited. We're working towards our TGE right now, and then later in the year, we're going to be getting out our own DePIN hardware, specifically around brainwave data. And we're launching an NFT collection called the Public AI Data Babies that will be the whitelist ticket to be able to get a hardware DePIN node for adding your brainwave data when our clients go live with those tasks. So that's a quick what's up from me. Really happy to be on the space. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We'll ask you a lot of questions. Nick wants to go.
Yeah, so my name is Amik. I'm the head of product at Autonomous. We are a layer one protocol where we focus on AI scale data. And so over the last couple of years, we've deployed our novel Nakamoto-style consensus mechanism that's built out from our granular DePIN network. And the result of those efforts is basically something called the Autonomous DSN. And that's our data storage network. And it's the largest abundance of block space in the world that's uniquely capable and designed for supporting the data needs of a lot of the AI scale applications that you see today. What makes it very unique is that the consensus mechanism is very closely tied to the creation of the block space. And we're able to scale throughput while also optimizing for cost over the long term. So that's basically fundamentally what our infrastructure is built on top of. Another key aspect of the DePIN nature of our project is that we make participation very, very easy. So people can, even with commodity hardware, operate and interact with our network. And you can probably hear my cat in the background confirming that that is the case. But yeah, we also have our TG coming up, and we're currently focused on building out a robust ecosystem to support our vision of AI 3.0. So yeah, reach out, follow Ping if you're a builder, innovator, or just AI curious, or just want to learn more, or figure out how to save the world. Come talk to us.
Awesome, man. It's always fun having you discuss on various things and seeing the progress. Last but not the least, Al from Koi Foundation.
Hey, yeah, I think we've been looking at the decentralization of AI for quite a while, and I think what we've settled on is that there's a need for swarm technology. So we think of this kind of like Airbnb for AI, which means that you can put our app on your computer with Koi, and you can access a whole suite of different AI tools that you can actually host yourself on your device. But the real power of this is mostly about collaboration between different agents. And so what we've been building up for the last probably 5 or 6 months is the ability to have agents that actually work together as what we call a tribe, where they're actually tribe coding together, building out something that they couldn't otherwise create and actually checking each other's work. And we think this is actually probably the most likely way that DePIN will actually get merged with AI, which is actually a whole bunch of agents collaboratively resourcing their own future. So you can kind of imagine this rather than agents, renting out your computer to use it, what you're kind of seeing is, you might want to have an agent that's running on your computer so that you can get somebody to pay the rent, but also that agent can work for somebody else at the same time. And we're really working at that edge of autonomous AI swarms, which seems to be, I think, where the big growth is going to happen in the next year or so, just because it leads to such a better result. And the base cost is so cheap because we're using DePIN technology under the hood. At Koi, we have a fork of Solana, and we've spent the last 2.5 years on testnet, where we've had the Solana virtual machine scaled up across about 100,000 home computers. And as that's been growing, it became apparent that we could do a lot with AI technology on top of it. And so we've recently spent the last 3 or 4 months porting over all kinds of different types of agents and getting those running on people's home computers.
Would you also expand some of the agents and real work, like some of the real use cases for our users that are bit more user side focused?
Yeah, so the really cool thing right now is called tribe coding. So people have probably heard of vibe coding, which is where you get the agents working for you.
Mhm.
Tribe coding is the next step beyond that. So it means rather than just having one agent hacking away as a software developer, you can have actually like a whole team of agents that check each other's work. This is traditionally called swarm technology. The difference with tribe coding is that when you're working on a new project, you can recruit a whole bunch of agents that are running on your friends' computers. And so you're able to have effectively a DAO of software engineers represented by AI agents. And so that seems to be the kind of the sweet spot for decentralization, because once these agents come together to design a product, then they can also resource the product with community devices. So that's kind of where the DePIN aspect comes in.
Awesome. And now question goes to everybody. Like we almost have seen that as if like it is kind of match made in heaven, AI and DePIN, because there are so many facets that are so common. It's probably both of them needed each other, right? But what, according to you, is some of these things you're very excited about?
I think for me, it's really the participation, because AI is very, I mean, we all live in bubbles because we're in the industry, so it's very easy for us to understand and come up with these novel ideas or concepts about swarms or orchestration or data labeling, et cetera, et cetera. But for the vast majority of people, AI is as abstract and complicated as blockchain is in many ways. And so I think just giving people the ability to use what they know and what they have to participate with advanced technologies and the advancement of those technologies is really exciting. And I think my first foray into DePIN was with Helium. In fact, I have like router number 78 sitting in front of me right now, completely broken, doesn't work. It's like 5 years old. Yeah, like that was my first foray into DePIN. And I knew from that point on that, wow, this is going to become easier and easier over time. Just got to plug something in and get it to work. And then all of a sudden you're mining a currency or contributing to supply chain logistics in the middle of New York City. Who would have thought, right? And so I think that's the part I'm excited about the most.
Awesome. Even like, when I got in hand of Helium, I was like, it's a nice dream, but I don't think it is going to be anywhere. It's such a huge thing. How they are going to make it work, right? But yeah,
They make it work with this.
The progress and I think it actually made some of the projects at least start believing things can be possible. Okay, it took different turn with Helium, and they bounced back in different ways, but it's still OG of DePIN, right? Yeah, who goes next?
So I just wanted to touch on the Helium thing. I actually also built a mesh Wi-Fi grid in 2015. It was part of a university accelerator that I was just coming out of. And we really looked at mesh Wi-Fi as a business model, and we couldn't get it to work. And Helium found out that there's a genius underlying thing with DePINs, which you can actually finance a DePIN. And so what they did was they sold their devices, and that allowed people to buy the tokens indirectly, which is absolutely brilliant. And that led to basically getting to get all of the upfront investment that they needed to build this new telecom network from people who wanted to buy the token. And that seems to be kind of where this industry is headed. It's more about like capital allocation as well. Really good example though, after you brought it up.
And especially in many, so-called like not so affluent societies, right? There are a lot of people who can actually contribute in many ways, and without this incentivization, it wasn't possible. It was almost like nobody was using them for any service kind, right? So when I have seen growth in Africa and Southeast Asia, the so-called global South, and people can contribute in many ways. In incentivization is making it possible. I think we probably have, like, if we call this as a proof of concept stage for entire DePIN, I think we have scratched imaginations. That's where we are probably heading into. I think how it is going to be successful, yeah, we can always dream, but it looks very possible right now with many of the things. I mean, I have seen you guys project itself, like Koi and Autonomous and IDO, public AI. You guys are like rocking already, right? So yeah, good. Please, who wants to take this question? Alex, you want to go? Jordan?
I can jump in a bit on the commonality and thread of data being the main asset of value here, relevant in both the DePIN industry, the AI industry, and also just long term in data's been valuable, like throughout the history since computers have come around. So seeing that common thread And also allowing blockchain to come in here is something that, as we've had experience rolling out data collection, and this is something that we've talked to DePIN partners about as well, and seen, is that when you have incentivization in place, you get, of course, people showing up for those rewards, but it can negatively impact the quality of your data because the incentives aren't exactly aligned to the value that you're trying to capture. So with both blockchain and AI and DePIN together, it forms this perfect trifecta where you're able to get the incentives in place through blockchain. Using AI to help detect malicious actors can then get you like the filtering on that DePIN or otherwise collected data. What we've been doing in our system that's live today, and people can check it out at beta.publicai.io and upload and participate in the system. But what we have in place is after the data gets uploaded, and in the future that can be from like actual hardware. Right now it's from what you can capture with your common devices like a phone or a computer, so audio, video, text, images. After that upload happens, we do AI processing and algorithmic filtering on the quality of the data. And then it goes to human validator nodes, essentially. So people are voting on each other's uploads to ensure that the incoming data meets the quality goals of the client and the network. And having that combination of the algorithmic or AI filtering in addition to the human filtering has been really instrumental in getting over that hump or speed bump of like incentives misaligning behavior with what the goals of the network are. So it has taken Web3 a few kind of false starts to find its narrative and really be capturing value in a way that's relevant to everyday people. But what we're seeing is now like anybody can show up, participate, and do so in a meaningful way that's actually generating real value. And that's proven out by the fact that we've got clients coming to us willing to spend on gathering data from real people on demand in these deep niches. And that's something that the AI industry is really really wanting for, and it also underlines the importance of DePIN and all of this data, is that real on-demand data from real people is going to be the most valuable thing. Everything that exists already is stale. The whole internet has pretty much been consumed, and you can go and pay for a deal with Reddit or Twitter or Google and continue to get on-demand data. But why go through that process when you can go directly to users? And that also means that people are more excited to participate because they're feeling the value of their participation as well. So blockchain, AI, DePIN together, it's going places.
Yeah, yeah, we are already seeing it. Maybe certain projects that has got like little bit ahead in terms of use cases, right? Um, in from deep in, especially deep in AI, like if you look at like render network or like GPU.net and kind of those are like obvious projects that have got bit of head start, right? But then everything else is catching up as well. And now people started questioning, privacy. There are issues of quality data, as you're mentioning, and so the bits and pieces which we were ignoring before, right now we are holding on to this. We say now these are the core components right now, right? So what do you think is actually the missing pieces in your opinion?
Can
I
you
can
repeat that one more
dive into
time?
this
Was the
one.
missing pieces of what?
But in that deep in AI, what do you think is missing pieces in the deep in AI stack?
Got it. Al, you want to go first?
Sure. So I think the thing I used to do is in factories, we did what we called integration or systems integration. And that was all about automation tools. So you'd take like several different machine systems, a robot, some kind of sensor system, some kind of control system, and you combine them together to do a job. And often these, one of these machines, which would be many different parts, would actually replace 20 or 30 people. But it would be some kind of a large clunky system that you had to spend quite a while setting up. Often, the systems integrator job, my role was to read like 3 or 4 different manuals and then connect them together. I think what we're seeing with vibe coding is that's basically a thing of the past at this point. So you can now use Cursor or another LLM agent in your IDE. So when you're actually writing code, and you can work hand in hand with the agent to write the code kind of almost intuitively. The really neat thing is an agent can read the docs just so incredibly fast. And this, I think, from our standpoint, leads to like homogenization of DePIN, which means that now we can build things that we'd pretty much never been able to build before. A really good example is storage networks, where we spent a lot of time working with Arweave and Filecoin a few years ago. And the tech just wasn't really there from an adoption standpoint. And that's not to say that those networks didn't have great technology. Like, they have incredible storage networks. They have really amazing decentralized technology. They've got all of these devices around the world working. But actually using that and accessing it and building something good with it was really complicated. And what we're seeing now with the rise of AI-assisted software development, you now have the ability to build things much, much faster. And you can take on new technology and integrate it into your stack much easier. Whereas in yesterday I was writing a new application. I started this project on Sunday. It's actually live now. And so we built the entire product in 3 days with just me and a graphic designer supporting me. Which is not to say the whole Koi team, they're all hacking away on different projects, but I was able to hack through this entire prototyping phase in 3 days, in addition to all the other stuff I'm doing. And that's, it's so easy because what you're doing is if you have, like, say, a new database that you want to integrate, I swapped out my database between 2 different providers yesterday, and it took about 10 minutes. And then I got to sit there and watch as Playwright actually tested all the buttons in my app. And that took about 15 minutes. And so in 15, maybe 17 minutes, I was able to do something that previously would have taken me probably a whole afternoon or maybe even an entire day to do. And it's just so much more efficient because of those kinds of things that I think we're going to rapidly see people swapping out components of their stack for DePIN. And I think we're already seeing this with AI training, where a lot of people are now going to DePIN for the actual training data. So there's definitely a lot of possibility and opportunity here. Things are about to start moving extremely fast. But yeah, what do you think, Alex?
Well, for me, it's about first balancing supply and demand. I think that was a kind of a thing that was handicapping the industry for a while, which is natural because we were starting from pretty much like this crash and like the industry, itself. And the other thing I think lots of projects were missing is user friendliness. And I think I see more and more projects taking that into account, and that's actually something we also did. I think making it as simple as possible for the user and making a clear explanation of what's the reward system, where they make money. I think that clarity is what will help the industry move forward, and bringing the data buyers, it can be behind the curtains and just basically telling people, listen, you earn for your data, for your compute, or for whatever you are doing. And, don't, by not overcomplicating it for the nodes, I think that will help it to kick off faster for the industry.
Amit wants to go.
Yeah, I think everyone's been spot on. It's really the agentic abstraction and automation that I think I'm excited about. I can give you 2 examples here that I think are pretty pertinent to myself. The first one I'll tell you about Helium one more time. There's different ways you can participate in all of these types of technologies. You can either plug and play, or you can be a geek and hyper optimize. So I still have 8-foot tall antennas in like a closet from when I was trying to fix the attenuation of my antenna to optimize my rewards, hanging my router from outside of my window. and with like the angle and all these different things. And I bought this like device that would allow me to, I learned so much about antennas. It's insane. And so there's that complexity that I think it is sometimes a barrier to entry for some people at a certain point, because once a lot of people figure out how to optimize their systems, they end up getting the majority of the rewards. And that can discourage some people, because what started to happen, especially in New York, is as saturation increased of the helium routers, the rewards went down and then participation dropped. And only the miners, I guess is what I'll call us, is the ones that had like perfectly optimized location, perfectly optimized antenna angle, et cetera, were the ones that were continuing to profit. So that was hard to figure all that stuff out. And there was entire consulting companies at the time that were created to help people optimize their antennas. And so I think abstracting all of that away with agents and data is one key aspect. I think at Autonomous, we've done a pretty good job of that, just starting with storage and having software that allows people to just simply download it, tapping into the affordances that they already have, meaning just the typical standard procedure that you would have to install any kind of application or software on your machine. That's one step in making it easy. But then we start to tap into the hardware aspects too, meaning originally when you would download the software, we would use your CPU to plot out your entire farm. And you would have to figure out what the allocation of that farm would be on your disk space. Now we can use the GPU to do that plotting, because it takes a little bit of time, but with the GPU, it's much, much faster. And so advancing it in that way is one thing where we're abstracting away some of the complexity. But then we also now have the ability to dynamically allocate your storage. So you can just say, use all of my available disk space, and then that's it. There's no impact on your system. There's nothing, your CPU doesn't spike, nothing happens. You can store files just as you always did, and the software will dynamically shift the amount of space that is allocated for your farm. And so abstracting away those kind of things, so like kind of to keep it simple, stupid is the quote that people always use, I think helps a lot. And I think the more of that we can start to implement into just all of the DePIN that is going on in the world today, will enhance the ability for more and more people to participate, and reduce the barrier to entry, which I think can only be a good thing. And so I think it seems that any new technology, whether it's AI or crypto or blockchain, always has this barrier initially, and we have to abstract away that complexity. And so I think that's what I really think is still missing.
Do you think that, when we are looking right now, most of the DePIN or hardware specific DePINs are like very indigenous hardwares, right? It hasn't gone really open source. Do you see a future where, you will be having almost like one hardware contributing to multiple DePIN projects and making it more sustainable in the process?
Yeah, I mean, well, Al kind of hit the nail on the head with the technologies that they're building, right? Because agents can, if you think about arbitrage, like trading, there's multiple exchanges and you're trying to find the most profitable strategy to execute across different exchanges, and you have to monitor all these prices, and it's quite sophisticated actually for the layman. And so DePIN, when there's a lot of DePIN, I can see there being a dynamic allocation and kind of a I don't know, MCP for DePIN maybe, where you just plug in and then you have access to an array, a variety of different reward mechanisms where you use one piece of hardware that is dynamically shifted based on what is the best scenario for you in any given time. So you would have access to a lot of different networks, but you're just using your computer, or you're just using this router, or you're just using your cell phone. And it's doing the work for you, but there's a man in the middle, or an agent in the middle in this case, or a swarm or something like that, that is figuring out what is in the best interest based on your hardware, your specs, the time of day, the traffic that's around you, and sensing all of that stuff. So yeah, for sure.
Jordan, you want to start?
Yeah, just wanted to hop on that UX conversation and that need for the interfaces to be accessible for folks, because I think that that's something, again, that really held back the Web3 industry at large, is that it is such rough UX, and the easier you can make it for people, the more people you'll get participating. And at Public AI, that's something that we really took to heart. And start participating on the platform, you can log in like via typical social means like Google or Twitter or even email, just so that you can get in the door and start participating. If you're aligned with the vision of the project of, building AI that's more human and reflects actual human values, then you can easily jump in. And then we introduced the Web3 component when people are actually getting their reward. So when it's relevant to them is when they take that step to learn about what is what is a wallet, why do I need one, and all of that. So it's really meeting people where they're at, as a UX like practice in general. And then another topic that came up, that Al was talking about, was kind of how AI has made it really easy to take a bunch of different inputs and normalize them into something that's useful on the other end. In his case, he's doing the software integration. This is also something that's really relevant in the world of DePIN. And as we're talking about using multiple different devices or one device for multiple different data collection points, as Amik was referring to, is the need for normalization around that data and how AI can be used to map data from different sensors to sit in a data set with similar but different data ranges and readings from other devices. Because when you're dealing with DePIN and scientific data, you have a wide variety. And as Amik was referring to with the tuning, like depending on how good your setup is, you might be getting just better data because of the way your device is set up rather than because of what you're actually trying to measure. So using AI as a filtering mechanism for normalizing data across these data sets is, again, just a killer use case that makes all of this just a little more real, and us able to get real valuable data and readings out of these DePIN networks.
Yeah, that brings me one of the issues we faced. So we were trying to get the pH level of the soil, and all different brand of sensors are giving different inputs. So you need to standardize them, and you need to see what is the what is the gap, right? So now what we are doing is we are sending the soil into the lab, get the test report, see what are the devices, what is the gap between these sample data, right? And you do on a periodic basis, you see other micro weather platforms, and get those data and see if there is any impact or there is any gap between those data, and then train. So I think at some point of time, while you are standardizing these, data collection points, and then you are having, you know, a lot of hardwares trying to give complete different data sets, you will also create a lot of such issues for the entire, your LLMs, again, to go over and filter out. And yeah, that throws a lot of challenges for DePIN. That is a crazy thing what we were trying to do, and we still not successful. Then we are now implementing only a couple of hardware, skipped out most of them, and then hopefully something happens there. What are some of the myths you have about this AI and DePIN convergence?
I think
If
one of the
you
big myths at the moment is commoditization has not been as rapid in DePIN as we would think. So like a real commodity like electricity, you buy electricity from your power provider by the watt. And you might have a generator that creates watts for you as well, but typically you just buy it from the power or the energy provider in your region. And they're actually rebuying it from all kinds of other people. Sometimes they're actually even like shipping you electricity, which people probably don't realize this, but you're actually often receiving your electricity over a power line from a really long distance away. And this is thanks to some properties of electronics, which is that you can actually push power very, very far, very quickly. But like as an example, where I'm from in Canada, there's a hydroelectric dam that's probably about a 50-hour drive from me, which is up northwest of me, and it actually powers cities as far south as Boston and New York. So there's like this huge range of areas where people are pulling and receiving different electricity across the system. And I think we're kind of very far from that in DePIN at the moment. So like the big misconception would be we have all these DePIN networks, but we haven't quite reached commoditization yet. We're actually still in a world of many different providers, which is a lot more similar to kind of what's been happening on the traditional internet, where you have all these different hosting providers and there's no fluid interchange of value. But it does seem like over the next year or so, we're going to start seeing that kind of consolidation of the DePIN market and start seeing kind of interchangeable services. So what that mostly comes down to is, is provider A compatible with provider B? And if provider A and B are both compatible, then provider C can now emerge that will consolidate the market and provide something that's a standard service offering across both of the original two providers. And I think that's kind of where we're going to see this going over the next year or so. There's already kind of some standards developing around IPFS, especially around like training data payloads for AI agents. So that's, I think, still a little bit more nascent. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if any of you guys have specific things that you're seeing commoditized or like very like clear use cases of where we're seeing that commoditization. Because I think those will be the most liquid markets and then most likely the ones that will be the most useful to developers.
How far are you seeing that? How far are we from that standardization?
In storage, it seems to be moving in that direction. I think GPUs also, like GPU hours or training flops was a pretty big one as well. That was partially because so many people were doing kind of sanctions avoidance schemes to be able to train their models. And so because of that, we've had kind of a standardization of the way that we purchase computing power for training. But it doesn't seem like it's homogenized yet. So it's kind of been standardized to the extent that like you can run the same payload on many different systems. But the pricing and the way that we look at the market dynamics has still been, I would say, pretty bumpy. It's a very like heterogeneous system. So you've got a lot of different things playing together, and you can make it work, but it's kind of painful. Storage is definitely one where like I think a gigabyte here is a gigabyte there is a gigabyte on anywhere, and they tend to be pretty much interchangeable as long as you have pretty good like SLAs around performance. The retrieval market side is still growing, but I think we're seeing caching now is getting standardized. I think stuff like the Mysterium VPN, like if you want a VPN exit node, it's just kind of a generic thing now, which is pretty amazing. So there's some areas like that are growing, but it's definitely been more around bandwidth and storage and less around AI so far, from what we can tell. But we're hoping that that's going to change very shortly.
Do you think that is also going to be the case for computation as well?
Yeah, I think compute in terms of like flops is actually, for at least for inference training models, that's a relatively interchangeable market as long as you're not on like a time crunch. It's when people are trying to run inference for like some kind of a generation task, they end up spending a lot more. But if you're just running like asynchronous training, then you can kind of run that anywhere, and so that's become a little bit more commoditized. It's when you want to run inference for like somebody. Let's say some like movie firm wants to generate a video or something like that, and they want to do that like within the next hour. That's where that on-demand high capacity compute is still really dominated by the centralized players. But we are starting to see a little bit more adoption of decentralization on this. Some teams like Prime Intellect that are doing really good work there. But it's going to be I think a while before we see that hit full market penetration. So part of what we've been noticing is the value is not so much of DePIN to be able to provide the best option, but also to provide something where you can crowdsource it and you can issue a token as payment. And so if an organization doesn't have cash right away to be able to train some large model, but they want to crowdsource the capacity, that's where tokenomics can come in and be really exciting. Though at the same time, there are definitely large swaths of GPUs becoming available, but they're usually the older models that they can't find a market for. The newer, like the really high-end Blackwell chips and stuff, are not exactly showing up on decentralized networks yet.
Amit wants to go.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if we tie all these points together, I think anyone that I talk to that is still part of centralized AI, I guess is what I'll call it, they're in complete disbelief of anything DePIN or decentralized in general. And I think that's probably the largest myth that I think will be broken in the future, become common knowledge, is that these networks, they actually can support the same things that centralized service providers are currently trying to support. It's just a matter of scaling it all across the amount of individuals or machines that are needed to support the necessary requirements. And I was at a hackathon, I think it's probably about a month ago, and everyone just the response when they heard about decentralized storage or pay once and your data stored forever and these kind of concepts, that they just wonder, like, why would I need that? I just got X amount, millions of dollars from my startup, and that's all I needed, and I'm just going to keep on going. But I think at scale, what's going to happen if the cost of everything doesn't go to zero very, very quickly is that there's going to be a push to essentially go out and utilize networks that are decentralized, because there are inherent properties to it that are, I would say, more acceptable overall. Because there is a concern also of just who has my data, how is it being used, how transparent are these systems. I think once that also becomes something that people understand, how should I say this? They can get the same experience eventually that they enjoy with centralized service providers, with DePIN as well, as long as we do our job. And so I think the idea that DePIN won't get there or won't be able to support what is currently needed in the future is probably a myth. We're definitely on the way towards that.
Guys, do you mind if I'll go next? I have to jump on the next call soon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, from my standpoint, when we talk about data, I think the standardization gonna come when you're gonna see Web3 and Web2 AIs actually using data from like the chains, or requesting on-demand data streams on chains, because at that point that would be sort of a push for everybody to, like, there will be a need for a standard, because currently you don't see that happening too often, and most of the DePIN business model when it comes to data is to do one-on-one sales. So I mean, they get the data, they have business around it, they may structure it, or they may do analytics on top of it, and they sell that to Web2 businesses. So there is no need for standardization on the data gathering there. They all may have different requirements. But once you're going to see an on-chain demands for the data streams, then when the need will arise, and then I think when the standardization may come. I'm sorry, I have to go have another call, but thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, man. Thank you for passing by. Jordan, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I think on the topic of kind of myths in the industry, one of the things that we encounter a lot when we describe what public AI is up to is people thinking that the system and the earning opportunities are really only for the, as you called it, the global south, when really the opportunities to participate in these networks are relevant for anybody that has relevant expertise or experience. And we underline that by kind of referencing back to the kind of rewards that you can get if you participate being in line with what you could get for participating in market research, where if you're a top contributor to a campaign, you can wind up with, a couple $100 pocketed. And I think that helps people realize kind of the framing, and also tying back the value of data to something that is a more familiar touch point for them with things like market research. So that's probably the biggest hurdle that we've found growing the supply side and getting people onboarded that actually do have expertise. And hopefully, as these industries mature, it becomes easier and easier on the UX side to participate, and people have to be less expert. But the current state of things is kind of have to be a nerd to get into the DePIN, and a lot of people don't see the value of participating in training of AI models and things like that because of stigmas around it, and also stigmas around blockchain and cryptocurrency. So those are kind of the myths that we're working every day to dispel, and doing that through the easy onboarding and everything else, and meeting users where they're at. But I think that that's still just the biggest hurdle for the industries, kind of across the board of the technologies that we're bringing together.
I was speaking to some of our farmers, and they are putting, soil sensors and various other things, right? Like weather stations. What we are always trying to do is to see what we can do in their space to utilize most, right? So add the weather stations, and like soil sensors and the temperatures, and you know so and so forth. But user experience of onboarding them is a nightmare, right? They need to scan these and go back and ask, how do I handshake this? And the support queries are like limitless support queries, right? So what we have done is our team have come up with this simple app we call Super App, right? And then standardize all the hardware and all the DPINs we are partnering with. Just scan one scan and put a code, and everything settles down on chain. And then you receive reward as if you are receiving rewards from multiple sources, different tokens, but you are receiving in the same wallet. So it just makes it a lot easier for them. User experience will be a key if you want to onboard so many people. And when we are going from experts, as you mentioning, Jordan, from experts to a lot of mass, we need to ensure that quality of data is one way, but also quantity of data. And quantity of data means so much of data you need to onboard through a lot of sensors, a lot of IoT devices, whatever way you need to onboard them. You got to make user experience way simplified. With the current, what way I always say, like inspect button of the browser, right? It is so developer only, right? I was teaching MetaMask to our farmers. They say like, why should I sign a transaction? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, good question. Good question. Right. So why should I sign a transaction? So it ends up there. And then we were telling, and so someone asked, if I have added a network already, why can't it remember? Why after closing the MetaMask plugin, why should I add it again? Right? So
Yeah.
users are in the web 2 field, they are not in the web 3 setup, right? We have to create user experience tools to make sure that it is easier for them, right? So yeah, but yeah, that's going well so far. We are slightly over time, but thank you so much for joining us. We will keep bringing you back. There is a lot of discussion. Also, there is a lot of cross pollination happening with DePIN projects and AI in particular. So we will be always requiring your expertise, and I will leave the our group chat open, so that if you want to partner with each other and or we introduce you with other projects, we will keep doing. I hardly see any use cases in DePIN that doesn't require AI. Right now, we are testing something where we can predict whether the rice plantations, basically the paddy, is going well or not. So, in agriculture setup, that is a lot of data, a lot of processing, a lot of things to look after, right? So, AI everywhere, and we are just empowering humans through the AI. So, thank you so much. I will try to bring you guys back and see the progress of your project, as well as we will have a lot of questions, and see where we stand with this. Okay.
Great. Thanks
Thanks
for
for
the
having
time
us.
today.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, guys.